Maya had learned something most people never have to learn. She learned that love could be dangerous. At 28 years old, she worked 2 jobs just to pay for her small apartment in the quiet part of town. Every morning, she woke up at 5 to serve coffee and breakfast at the local diner. Every evening, she went to night school to study accounting. Her days were long, but they were hers. Her apartment wasn't fancy. It had 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and windows that looked out at the parking lot. But Maya loved it because it was safe. She had installed 3 different locks on the front door. She had a security system that she paid for herself. She knew exactly which floorboard creaked when someone walked on it. She knew the sound of every car that regularly parked outside. 2 years ago, Maya's life had been completely different. She had been in a relationship with someone who seemed nice at first. He brought her flowers and told her she was beautiful. But slowly things changed. He started getting angry about small things. He didn't like her friends. He didn't want her to go out without him. When she tried to leave, he would apologize and promise to change. The cycle repeated over and over, the day she finally left. Maya took only a backpack with some clothes and her important papers. She didn't tell anyone where she was going, just walked out when he wasn't home and never looked back. She had been hiding from him ever since. Maya's daily routine was like a carefully planned mission. She left for work at the same time every day, but she never took the same route twice. She always checked behind her while walking. She never wore headphones outside because she needed to hear everything around her. At the diner, she always worked the morning shift because there were more people around. She felt safer in crowds. Her coworkers often invited her to hang out after work, but Maya always said no. They invited her to birthday parties and movie nights, but she made excuses. She knew they thought she was unfriendly, but she didn't care. Being alone was better than being in danger. At night school, Maya sat in the back corner of every classroom. She could see the door from there, and she could leave quickly if she needed to. She never stayed after class to talk with other students. She went straight home, locked her door, and felt safe again. The only person Maya talked to regularly was Mrs. Kim, the elderly woman who lived next door. Mrs. Kim was 75 years old and sometimes needed help carrying groceries up the stairs. Maya would meet her in the hallway and help her, but she never went inside Mrs. Kim's apartment, and she never invited Mrs. Kim into hers. Maya's apartment was her fortress. She had blackout curtains so no one could see inside. She had arranged her furniture so she could quickly move to different rooms if needed. A bag packed with cash and important documents, just in case she had to leave quickly again. She had planned escape routes through the window and down the fire escape. Every night before bed, Maya checked all the locks twice. She made sure the security system was working. She looked out the window to see if any unfamiliar cars were parked outside. She kept her phone charged and within reach. Sleep didn't come easily, but eventually, exhaustion would take over. Maya had convinced herself that this was a good life. She was independent. She paid her own bills. She was learning new skills in school. She didn't need anyone else. She told herself that loneliness was a small price to pay for peace of mind. But sometimes, late at night, Maya would remember what it felt like to laugh with friends. She would remember family dinners and birthday celebrations. She would remember feeling relaxed and happy. Those memories felt like they belonged to a different person, someone who had existed before she learned that love could hurt. Maya had built walls around herself, and she had built them high and strong. She had learned to be suspicious of kindness from strangers. She had learned to question every invitation and every friendly gesture. She had learned that the safest person to trust was herself. During quiet moments at work, Maya would sometimes watch the couples who came into the diner. She would see them holding hands and laughing together. Part of her missed that connection, but a bigger part of her remembered the price she had paid for it. She had learned that romantic love was a luxury she couldn't afford. Maya's life had become about survival, not happiness. She had accepted that this was how things had to be. She had accepted that some people get fairy tale endings and others get safety. She had chosen safety, and she told herself it was enough. The scars on her arms had faded 2 thin white lines that most people wouldn't notice. But Maya noticed them every day. They reminded her of why she had to stay strong. They reminded her of why she couldn't let anyone get too close. They reminded her that she had survived something terrible, and she was determined to never go through it again. Maya had learned to find small joys in her carefully controlled life. She liked the regular customers at the diner who always ordered the same breakfast. She liked solving math problems in her accounting classes. She liked the feeling of her apartment door closing behind her at the end of each day. These small pleasures were enough because they were safe. This was Maya's world when everything started to change. She had no idea that someone was about to walk into her life who would challenge everything she believed about safety and love. Alex wasn't looking for anyone to save, wasn't even looking for love. At 32, he had his hands full running a small construction company that specialized in security work. Installing locks, fixing doors, setting up security systems. It was steady work that paid the bills and kept him busy. 6 months ago, Alex's marriage had ended. Not with drama or fighting, just with the quiet realization that they had grown into different people. His ex-wife had moved across town, and now he saw his 8-year-old daughter Lily every other weekend. The adjustment was harder than he expected. His apartment felt too quiet. He found himself working longer hours, just to avoid going home to the silence. The job at Maya's apartment building should have been routine. The property manager had hired him to install new security doors throughout the complex. It was a 3-week project that would give him steady income and plenty of overtime. Alex arrived early on Monday morning with his tools and materials. Ready to work his way through the building floor by floor, he noticed her on the second day. The woman in apartment 3 moved differently than everyone else in the building. While other residents walked casually, checking their phones or chatting with neighbors, she moved with purpose. Her head was always up, always looking around. Walked close to the walls, never down the center of the hallway. She unlocked her door quickly and disappeared inside like she was being chased. Alex recognized the signs because he had seen them before. His younger sister had moved the same way after her divorce. That constant alertness, like someone who had learned to expect trouble around every corner. It was the body language of someone who had been hurt and was determined not to let it happen. Again, the woman he learned her name was Maya from the mailbox left for work at exactly 7:15 every morning. She came home at exactly 9:30 every night. She never varied her timing by more than 5 minutes. Alex found himself timing his work breaks to coincide with her schedule. Not to bother her, but just to make sure she was okay, Alex had learned some things about trauma from his sister's experience. He had learned that sometimes people needed space, but they also needed to know that someone cared. He had learned that small gestures mattered more than big ones. He had learned that being consistently present was more important than being helpful. On Thursday of his second week, Alex was working on the security door for the 3rd floor when he heard Maya's apartment alarm going off. The sound was piercing and had been going on for several minutes. He could hear her voice through the door, frustrated and scared, trying to turn it off. Alex knocked gently on her door. "Excuse me," he called out. "I'm the contractor working on the building. I think I might have accidentally triggered your system when I was testing the new wiring. I can help fix it if you'd like." There was a long pause. Then Maya's voice came through the door. "I don't know you." "That's smart," Alex replied. "I'm Alex. I've been working on the security doors. I have my contractor's license and ID. I can slide them under your door if you want to check." Another pause. "Can you fix it from out there?" "I can try," Alex said. "The main panel is in the hallway. You don't have to open your door at all." Alex spent the next 20 minutes working on the hallway panel, explaining what he was doing in a calm, steady voice. He told Maya about the wiring problem and how he was fixing it. He talked about his work, his tools, anything to let her know he was still there and still focused on helping her. When the alarm finally stopped, Maya's voice came through the door again. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Alex replied. "I'm sorry I caused the problem in the first place. I'll be more careful with the wiring from now on." "Are you done working on this floor?" Maya asked. "I have one more door to install tomorrow, then I'll move to the 4th floor," Alex said. "I'll be working in the building for about another week." Maya said quietly, "Thank you again." Alex packed up his tools and went home, but he couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. Maya's voice had been scared but not panicked. She had been cautious but not rude. She had handled the situation like someone who had learned to be careful but still wanted to trust people. The next morning, Alex arrived at work to find a note slipped under the door of the apartment he was working on. It was written in neat handwriting on plain paper. "Thank you for fixing my alarm yesterday. I'm sorry I couldn't open the door, but I appreciated your help. Maya 3B."
Alex
Folded the note carefully and put it in his wallet. It was the first time anyone had thanked him for his work in a long time. Most people barely notice contractors, treating them like invisible workers who appeared and disappeared without acknowledgement. Over the next few days, Alex found himself being extra careful with his work. He made sure his tools were organized and quiet. He cleaned up after himself meticulously. He wanted Maya to feel safe in her building, and he knew that part of feeling safe was knowing that the people around you were responsible and trustworthy. On Friday, Alex was packing up his tools when he heard Maya's door open. She stepped into the hallway, and for the first time, he saw her face clearly. She was younger than he had expected, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired but determined. "Are you finished with this floor?" she asked. "Staying close to her door?" "Yes," Alex replied, keeping his voice gentle. "I'll be starting on the 4th floor Monday." Maya nodded. "The door looks good. More secure than the old one." "That's the idea," Alex said. "Security is important." Maya studied his face for a moment, as if she were making a decision. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a business card. "If you do other kinds of work besides doors, I might need some help with my apartment sometime." Alex looked at the card. It was his own business card, the one he had given to the property manager. Maya must have asked for it. "I do all kinds of repair work," Alex said. "Big jobs, small jobs, whatever you need." Maya nodded again and stepped back toward her door. "Good to know," she said, and then she was gone. Alex finished packing his tools with a strange feeling in his chest. He had been working construction for 10 years, and he had never had an interaction quite like this one. Maya hadn't asked for his help, but she had let him know that she might need it someday. It was a small step, but Alex sensed that for someone like Maya, small steps were actually very big ones. As he drove home, Alex found himself hoping that Maya would call him, not because he needed the work, but because he wanted to help her feel safe. He had seen enough fear in his life to recognize it, and he had learned that sometimes the best way to fight fear was simply to be present, reliable, and kind. Alex didn't know it yet, but Maya had already decided to trust him. It would take time, and it would happen slowly, but something had begun between them in that hallway, something that would change both of their lives forever. 3 weeks passed before Maya called Alex. She had kept his business card on her kitchen counter, moving it from place to place as she cleaned. Every time she saw it, she thought about calling, but then she would find a reason not to. The leaky faucet in her bathroom had been dripping for months, but she had learned to live with it. The squeaky door hinge annoyed her, but she had taught herself to ignore it. Finally, on a rainy Tuesday morning, the faucet started dripping so loudly that Maya couldn't sleep. She stared at the business card for 10 minutes before picking up her phone. Her hands were shaking as she dialed the number. "Hello, this is Alex," came the familiar voice. "Hi, this is Maya from apartment 3B, she said quickly. "Said you do repair work. I have a faucet that's leaking pretty badly." "Of course I remember you," Alex said, and Maya could hear the smile in his voice. "I can come take a look this afternoon if that works for you." "Around 2 o'clock?" Maya's first instinct was to say no, to hang up and deal with the dripping faucet herself. But something about Alex's calm voice made her feel safe. "Okay," she said. 2 o'clock. Alex arrived exactly at 2 o'clock, carrying a toolbox and wearing the same work clothes she remembered. Maya opened her door, but kept the security chain attached, so it only opened a few inches. "I brought my tools," Alex said, holding up his toolbox. "Do you want me to show you my ID again?" Maya had been thinking about this moment all day. She had rehearsed what she would say, how she would handle it. She had even moved some furniture so she could keep a clear path to the door. But looking at Alex through the gap in her door, she realized that she actually did trust him. The thought scared her, but it also felt like progress. No, that's okay, Maya said, closing the door to remove the chain. When she opened it again, Alex stepped inside carefully, as if he understood that this was a big moment for her. Maya's apartment was small, but perfectly organized. Everything had its place, and everything was clean. Alex noticed that she had positioned herself between him and the door, and he made sure to move slowly and predictably. He didn't comment on her apartment or ask personal questions. He just followed her to the bathroom and looked at the faucet. This is an easy fix, Alex said, examining the problem. The washer needs to be replaced. I have what I need right here. As Alex worked, Maya stood in the doorway watching him. She had been prepared for this to feel scary, but instead it felt almost normal. Alex explained what he was doing as he worked, describing each step in simple terms. He was careful not to make sudden movements, and he asked permission before moving anything. There, Alex said, turning the faucet handle. No more dripping. It should last you a few years. Maya felt a strange mix of relief and gratitude. Much do I owe you? $20 for the washer, Alex said. It's really not a big job. Maya went to get her wallet, but Alex's voice stopped her. Actually, let me just charge you for the part. Labor is free for neighbors. No, Maya said. Firmly, I want to pay you properly. What would you normally charge? Alex studied her face and realized that paying full price was important to her. Okay, $50 total, but only because you insist. Maya paid him exactly $50, and Alex could see the relief on her face. She was maintaining her independence, paying her own way. He understood that this mattered to her. Over the next few months, Maya called Alex 3 more times. Once for a stuck window, once for a loose cabinet door, and once for a burnt-out light fixture that was too high for her to reach. Each time, Alex came exactly when he said he would, did the work efficiently, and left without trying to extend his visit. But something was changing between them. Maya had started to relax around Alex. She no longer positioned herself between him and the door. She had even offered him a glass of water once, which he had accepted gratefully. Small conversations began to happen during his visits. Nothing personal, just comments about the weather or the building. Alex had learned to read Maya's moods. Could tell when she was having a good day or a bad day just by how she answered the door. On bad days, he worked quickly and quietly. On good days, he took his time and made gentle conversation. He never asked about her past or her family, never commented on her careful habits or her security measures. He just accepted her exactly as she was. The breakthrough came on a particularly difficult week. Maya's car had broken down on Sunday, and she couldn't afford to get it fixed until her next paycheck. She had been taking the bus to work, but the bus stop was 6 blocks from her apartment, and she had to walk alone in the dark. Alex was replacing a broken lock on Maya's front door when he noticed how tired she looked. She seemed more jumpy than usual, and she kept checking the time. Everything okay? Alex asked gently. Maya hesitated, then sighed. My car broke down. I've been taking the bus to work, but I have to walk so far in the dark. I know it's probably fine, but it doesn't feel safe, Alex finished. Maya nodded, looking embarrassed. I know I'm probably being paranoid. You're not being paranoid, Alex said firmly. Trust your instincts. They're there for a reason. Maya looked surprised. Most people told her she worried too much, that she needed to relax. Alex was the first person who had validated her feelings instead of dismissing them. I could give you rides, Alex offered, carefully. I know trust has to be earned, and I know you don't really know me yet. But I have a daughter, Maya. I understand that safety isn't just about being brave. Sometimes it's about being smart. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. For the first time in 2 years, someone had seen her fear without judging it. Someone had offered help without making her feel weak or broken. You would do that? She asked quietly. Of course, Alex said. What time do you need to be at work? At evening, Alex picked Maya up at 6:45 and drove her to the diner. He didn't ask questions about why she was so scared or what had happened to her. He just drove carefully and made sure she felt safe. When they arrived at the diner, he said, I'll be here at 9:30 to pick you up. Maya worked her shift, with a lighter heart than she had felt in months. When Alex arrived at exactly 9:30, she was waiting by the door with a smile on her face. "Thank you," she said as she got in the car. "You have no idea how much this means to me." "I think I do," Alex replied gently. As they drove through the quiet streets, Maya realized that something had shifted. She wasn't just accepting Alex's help, she was beginning to trust him. And for the first time in 2 years, trust didn't feel dangerous. It felt like coming home. For 3 months, Maya had been living in what felt like a dream. She had a friend she could trust. She had help when she needed it. She had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could build a normal life. Alex had become a regular part of her routine, and for the first time in years, Maya looked forward to something other than just surviving each day. Then the flowers appeared. Maya found them on a Tuesday morning when she left for work. White roses, a dozen of them, sitting outside her apartment door. There was no card, no note, nothing to explain who had left them. But Maya knew. Her hands started shaking as she stared at the roses. And suddenly, she couldn't breathe properly. White roses had been his favorite gift to give her. After every fight, after every apology, after every promise to change, he would bring white roses. They were supposed to mean new beginnings, but to Maya, they meant the calm before the next storm. Maya left the flowers where they were and went to work. She spilled coffee on 3 different customers and mixed up 4 orders. Her manager asked if she was feeling okay, but Maya just nodded and tried to focus. All day, she kept thinking about those roses. Maybe they were from someone else. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe she was being paranoid. But when she came home that night, there were more flowers. This time, red roses mixed with white ones, arranged in a heart shape on her doormat. Maya's knees went weak, and she had to lean against the wall to keep from falling. She called Alex immediately. "Can you come over?" she asked, and Alex could hear the panic in her voice. "I'm on my way," he said without asking questions. Alex arrived 15 minutes later to find Maya sitting on the floor in her hallway, staring at the flowers. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "He found me," she whispered. Alex didn't need to ask who he was. He had suspected that Maya was running from someone, and now he knew for sure. He carefully moved the flowers away from her door and helped Maya to her feet. "Let's go inside," he said gently. "We'll figure this out." Inside her apartment, Maya told Alex everything. She told him about the relationship that had started sweet and turned scary. She told him about the fights and the apologies and the flowers that always came after. She told him about the night she finally left and the 2 years she had spent hiding. "I thought I was safe," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "I thought he had given up looking for me." Alex listened without interrupting, his heart breaking for what Maya had been through. When she finished talking, he was quiet for a long moment. "Do you have anywhere else you can stay?" he asked. Maya shook her head. "I don't have family nearby. I don't have friends. I can't afford a hotel for more than a night or 2. "Then you'll stay with me," Alex said firmly. Maya looked at him in surprise. "I can't do that." "I barely know you." "You know me well enough," Alex replied. "You know I'm safe. You know I keep my promises. And you know I won't let anyone hurt you." Maya wanted to argue, to insist that she could handle this alone, like she had handled everything else. But she was tired of being scared. She was tired of running. And for the first time in years, someone was offering to help her carry the weight. "Just until I figure out what to do," Maya said quietly. "As long as you need," Alex replied. That night, Maya slept in Alex's guest room while he stayed awake in the living room, watching the windows and listening for any unusual sounds. He had given her his phone number and told her to call out if she needed anything, but Maya slept more peacefully than she had in weeks. The next morning, Alex made breakfast while Maya called her work to explain that she had a family emergency and needed a few days off. Her manager was understanding, and Maya felt a small sense of relief that she wouldn't have to worry about work on top of everything else. "What's the plan?" Alex asked, as they sat at his kitchen table. Maya had been thinking about this all night. "I need to call the police and report that he's been to my apartment," I need to check if the restraining order is still valid. I need to figure out how he found me. We'll do all of that, Alex said. Together, Maya looked at him in surprise. You don't have to get involved in this mess. I'm already involved, Alex said simply. Yeah, you're important to me, Maya. I'm not going to let you face this alone. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. No one had ever said she was important to them. No one had ever offered to stand with her instead of just offering advice from a safe distance. They spent the day making phone calls and filing reports. The police took Maya's statement and promised to increase patrols around her apartment building. The courthouse confirmed that her restraining order was still active and helped her file additional paperwork. A victim services counselor gave them information about safety planning and support services. Through it all, Alex stayed by Maya's side. He drove her to appointments, sat with her during difficult conversations, and made sure she had everything she needed. He never made her feel like she was being dramatic or paranoid. He treated her fear as completely valid and reasonable. That evening, as they sat on Alex's couch watching a movie, Maya realized something important. She felt safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. Alex had seen her at her most vulnerable and scared, and he hadn't run away. He hadn't told her to get over it or move on. He had simply stepped up and offered his strength when hers wasn't enough. Alex, Maya said during a quiet moment in the movie. Yeah, thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. Alex looked at her with gentle eyes. You would have figured it out. You're stronger than you think. But I'm glad you didn't have to do it alone. Ah. Maya smiled for the first time in days. I'm glad too. As the movie continued, Maya found herself relaxing against Alex's shoulder. She had been so focused on staying safe that she had forgotten what it felt like to feel cared for. Alex had given her both safety and care without asking for anything. In return, over the next few days, Maya stayed at Alex's apartment while the police investigated. There were no more flowers, no more signs of her ex-boyfriend. Maybe he had gotten scared when he realized she was taking action. Maybe he had moved on to someone else. Maya didn't know, and she realized she didn't need to know. What mattered was that she had found someone who would stand with her no matter what came next. Maya had learned something important during those frightening days. She had learned that accepting help didn't make her weak. She had learned that trusting someone didn't mean giving up control. Most importantly, she had learned that she didn't have to face her fears alone. Alex had given her something she had never expected to find again. A feeling of being protected not by walls and locks, but by someone who genuinely cared about her well-being. It was a different kind of safety, deeper and more lasting than anything she had built for herself. As Maya fell asleep in Alex's guest room that night, she realized that her life was changing in ways she had never imagined possible. She was still scared, but she was no longer alone. And somehow that made all the difference. 2 weeks later, the police called with good news. Maya's ex-boyfriend had been arrested for violating the restraining order. Security cameras at her apartment building had caught him leaving the flowers, and witnesses had seen him watching the building from across the street. The judge had given him 6 months in jail and extended the restraining order for another 5 years. Maya should have felt relieved. But instead, she felt scared in a different way. The immediate danger was gone, but now she had to figure out how to rebuild her life. She had been staying with Alex for 2 weeks, and every day she told herself she would go back to her own apartment soon. But every time she thought about leaving, her chest would tighten with anxiety. Alex never pressured her to leave or to stay. He had quietly rearranged his life to make room for her. He gave her space when she needed it, and company when she wanted it. He cooked meals they could share and made sure she felt welcome in his home. Most importantly, he never made her feel like she was a burden or an inconvenience. Maya's healing wasn't a straight line. Some days she felt strong and confident, ready to take on the world. Other days, she could barely get out of bed. The sound of unexpected knocking would send her into a panic. Loud voices in the hallway would make her heart race. Car doors slamming outside would wake her up in the middle of the night. Alex learned to recognize her difficult days. On those days, he would speak more softly and move more slowly. He would make sure all the curtains were closed and the doors were locked. Would put on quiet music and make her favorite tea. He never asked her to explain why she was having a hard day or told her she should be feeling better by now. Healing isn't linear. Alex told her one particularly difficult morning when Maya was crying because she felt like she wasn't making progress. Some days will be harder than others, and that's okay. You don't have to be strong every day. Heard anyone say that before? Everyone else in her life had always expected her to bounce back quickly, to move on and forget about the past. Alex was the first person who understood that trauma leaves lasting effects, and that healing takes time. 3 weeks after the arrest, Alex suggested that Maya might want to look for a new apartment in a different part of town. It's not because I want you to leave, he said quickly, when he saw the fear in her eyes, but because you might feel safer starting fresh somewhere new. Maya had been thinking the same thing, but she was scared to start over again. What if he finds me again? She asked. Then we'll deal with it, Alex said simply. Together. Word together made Maya's heart skip a beat. Somewhere along the way, without either of them really noticing, they had become a team. Alex had never asked her to be his girlfriend, or talked about their future. He had just been present day after day, showing her through his actions that she could count on him. Maya realized she was falling in love with Alex, but it didn't feel scary the way love had felt before. This love felt safe. It felt like coming home after a long, difficult journey. Alex loved her hypervigilance because it had kept her alive, loved her independence because it made her strong. He loved her careful habits because they were part of who she was. The moment Maya knew for sure that she loved Alex came on an ordinary Thursday evening. Alex was helping his daughter Lily with her homework at the kitchen table while Maya cooked dinner. The scene was so peaceful and normal that it should have terrified her. For 2 years, Maya had avoided anything that looked like a family or a relationship. But instead of feeling trapped, she felt like she belonged. Alex, Maya said quietly that night after Lily had gone to bed. Yeah, he replied, looking up from the book he was reading. I love you, Maya said, her heart pounding. I'm scared to say it, but I do. Alex set down his book and looked at her with the gentlest expression she had ever seen. I love you too, he said. I think I have for a while now. Aren't you scared, Maya asked. Of loving you? No, Alex said. You're the bravest person No, you survived something terrible, and you're still here. You're still fighting. You're still believing that life can be good. How could I be scared of loving someone like that? Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes, but they were happy tears. I never thought I could have this, she said. I thought I had to choose between being safe and being loved. You don't have to choose, Alex said, reaching for her hand. Love should make you feel safer, not more vulnerable. If it doesn't, then it's not real love. 6 months later, Alex and Maya got married in a small ceremony in Alex's backyard. Lily was the flower girl, and Mrs. Kim from Maya's old building came as her guest of honor. Maya's vows were simple but heartfelt. You gave me safety when I needed it most, and love when I was ready to receive it. You never asked me to choose between the two. Maya kept her job at the diner, but also started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping other survivors learn about safety planning and legal resources. She discovered that helping others heal was part of her own healing process. She had learned that her experience, as painful as it had been, could be used to help other people find their way to safety. Alex expanded his business to include free security installations for domestic violence survivors. Together, they created a small nonprofit organization that provided practical help to people trying to rebuild their lives after leaving dangerous relationships. Maya handled the counseling and support services, while Alex managed the security installations and repairs 2 years after their wedding. Maya and Alex bought a house with a big backyard where they could host barbecues for the families they worked with. Maya planted a garden full of flowers, not white roses, but bright yellow sunflowers that turned their faces toward the sun every day. Maya had learned that healing wasn't about forgetting the past, or pretending the scars weren't there. It was about finding someone who could love you completely, trauma and all, and who understood that sometimes the greatest act of love is simply being present while someone learns to feel safe again. Alex had given her both love and safety, not a because he was trying to save her, but because he recognized that she was already saving herself. He had just walked beside her while she did the hard work of healing. On quiet evenings, when Maya was watering her sunflowers and Alex was fixing something in the garage while Lily played in the yard, Maya would remember the woman she used to be. The woman who lived behind locked doors and thought that loneliness was the price of safety. She felt grateful for that woman's strength and survival. But she was also grateful that she no longer had to live that way. Maya had learned that love and safety weren't opposites. In the right hands, with the right person, they were partners in the dance of building a life worth living. She had found both, and she had learned to trust that they would last.